Talking about I'm in the body.
No, I'm talking about your hair.
Well, I'm working my way up. That's fine. I know my hair's getting shaggy. I'm in the quarantine hair like most anyone else. But I do have a set of actual hair clippers on order when it gets back in stock. Because pretty much everywhere you look, a good set of male clippers is not in stock anymore. It's just the way it is.
Hey, it's Cami. This is Man Frand. We're not doing great this morning because I'm already so irritated with you.
God, she is irritated like you wouldn't even believe. And it's rainy, so I can't get outside and do yard work.
Quarantine is hard when you're a couple, especially like, we've been doing okay, but we could be doing better, right?
It's actually easy. I just stay quiet and watch movies.
What a load. Oh my God.
And do my own thing. If she just leave me alone, which is a pretty easy task. Just leave me alone.
Okay. So, we're going to talk about something not related to quarantine. This is more so about a TV show that I started watching because I know how I feel about it, but I'm interested to hear what you feel about it. And I'm just I like to be on top of stuff. I like to watch stuff the second it comes out. But for some reason, I never could quite get into Mad Men when it first came out. And I just decided, yesterday to start watching it.
Which I was actually very excited because...
Now, you've watched all of it, right?
Well, I've seen the whole series probably about 4 or so times. It's one of those I'll keep on in the background. I watched when it was happening. But I'm actually excited that Cammy's watching it because... You know, there are shows we kind of watch together, but there's a lot of shows she watches I could care less about, and she could care less about a lot of the shows I watch. So when I saw she was on Mad Men, I was like, hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because it's one, I'm currently in my 5th time probably watching it, and I'm, in season 5 maybe, but I'm going back with her. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, so my question with Mad Men is, I know how I watch it, but how does a man watch it? Like, I mean, I'm only a couple of episodes in, and it's obviously, like, highlighting a lot of differences when it comes to the way, you know, the advertising executives acted back in the day. Anyone in business acted back in, the 50s, 40s?
It's around Nixon era, and then it'll go into the JFK era. I mean, it's in a lot of that area. Cigarettes were a huge thing. It's when some of the laws were getting to be in effect.
Yeah.
You know, I know you're talking about more of the male-female dynamic in this and the male superiority that is in the show. Now, I mean, I'll do a side note. One of the reasons I'm fascinated with the show is because I'm a fan of true stories, which I know Mad Men isn't a true story, but historical things that happen around it really did happen.
Yeah.
And they stay pretty true to when they happen. It's just really cool to see. To me, it's a whole series of that period in time, from the routines to, the way of life is just fascinating.
Yeah.
And so I think it's pretty cool. But I know you're wanting to talk about more the male-female dynamic, which is fascinating as well, and obviously would not work or should work in today's society.
Well, okay, so not really my point, but you're on the right track. I'm just curious. I mean, like, there was this line, you know, one of the guys gets back from his honeymoon and his wife calls him at the office and she's like, what do you want for dinner? And he says steak with butter. What is it again? Steak with butter.
I'm just dreaming about it.
Right, steak with butter.
He said I'll take he's like, I'll take a ribeye in a pan with butter.
And ice cream.
And ice cream.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, which meant that was going to be waiting for him when he got home.
Which is great, but it just, the way you laughed about it, you were like, oh my God. Like, you were.
Oh, yeah.
He's not at all, like, you know, anyway, but it was just fascinating when you said that. I mean, obviously.
Listen, I'm going to say the dirty underbelly of when a male watches it is probably like that. It's pretty cool. It'd been
right?
Nice to be
I
around
almost wonder if
it'd have been pretty cool. Now, I mean, you have the deep underbelly, which is like, that's pretty cool, I think.
It's very different.
That you're like, you're just the king of the world. I mean, you'll see episodes as it comes along, like there's a time when Don Draper's wife
Don't spoil anything.
No, that's it. And it's like a door-to-door air conditioning salesman that's coming by when they're in the heat of the summer. And she lets him in to do just an analysis of the windows and all. Well, later on, when Don finds out you let someone in this house, it's just fascinating because I think it's just interesting. The man did no wrong. Well, I mean, he did wrong, and you'll see that with divorces and firings and everything else in this that happens in this show. But I think a man watches it like, that's pretty cool. It'd been nice to drink whiskey in my office and smoke all the time and just kind of, you be able to flirt with ladies out in the open and do whatever else. But in reality, you know that it's kind of, I mean, as you're watching it from the outside, it's sad because you're just like, oh, they're so unequal. There's times where they're like, what does a woman think? Who cares what a woman thinks? That kind of stuff, which is just, you're like, well, you know, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. Okay, so what part of it, you know, like, there's a lot of infidelity that happens, a lot of sex that happens, but I feel as though, from what I've seen so far, women aren't really categorized in as bad a, like, it's not like people, do they go around, like, as it like gets on a little bit, do they go around calling women sluts and stuff?
I think, for one, any stereotype will probably comes out throughout all the seasons it goes.
Okay.
I can't remember, but I know that one thing that'll come out, I can't even remember when, it's not a secret. I mean, it'll be that, you know, you got the Don Draper character. And I mean, of course, others are unfaithful as well, as you see, but we'll focus on him because obviously he's the stud of the group.
Yeah.
And hooks up and has just women everywhere. He comes home and still loves his wife and everything else. Or expresses love for his wife.
Yeah.
But you'll see that, like, there's times in this where the man's been doing this all the time, but then a woman has a desire or spends time with another man, and they will just rail her for, like, one guy, like a kiss or something like that.
Yeah.
Knowing that the man has just been, it's interesting. It is I mean, I don't know if they call sluts or anything else, but...
Well, they had probably a different word.
Yeah, I mean, but either way, yeah. I mean, they're hit for it later on, and there's times where the women will be unfaithful. Obviously not as common as the men in that show, but it's just interesting. Because when she does it, the world ends. When he does it, it's kind of like, I'm controlling it. It's all, you know, just shut up.
It's kind of like the men will be men kind of mentality.
Yeah, men will be men. I'm the one who pays for everything. I'm the one who... You just have dinner on the table when I get home, take care of the kids. That's your responsibility.
And so that's the part that, like, I'm sure a lot of our grandparents, a lot of our, you know, the older generation probably watches that, and, you know, I'm not saying they don't think anything's wrong with it, but, like, they watch it and it's almost like, you know, nostalgic in a way, because that was the time, you know, that's how it was. But what do you feel like, as a man, how do you feel like different things have changed in the world that you have already seen, like, since you've been in the workforce?
Obviously, women aren't just in the secretarial pool.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
You got the Peggy that moves her way up what's her name?
Elizabeth Moss, yeah.
Elizabeth Moss, and she moves up in the world. I mean, she moves up in it and kind of defies how it normally goes, but you see women empowerment more as the show goes on, but that's, I think, one thing. Women have a more professional presence in the world than they did at that time, or were allowed to nowadays, because back then it's like keep you in, we went to, I forget what it's called, secretarial school. You're working the operating for the phone. There's so many different things that now, I mean...
Well, you're lost now. If you're in this world now, and, like, say you're a Don Draper, like, you're going to be, like, the laughing stock of an office.
You're going to be...
If you came in as a Don Draper nowadays, do you think you would still, like...
Well, you'd be a sexual harassment. lawsuit waiting to happen. Well, most of the other ones. I think Don didn't so much flirt in the office. His stuff was always behind the scenes. Exactly. But a lot of the other guys, it would have been a sexual harassment suit. Don would be broke from all his divorces because women would have private investigators and catch them and everything else.
Yeah.
But just in the couple episodes we watched, I mean, how they looked at psychiatrists and therapists. I mean,
wasn't that so fascinating?
It's like when they look at it, it's looked at a true weakness. When a doctor recommended that you go to a therapist, they're looking at it as
it's like the new thing to do.
Well, it's the new thing to do, so that's why every woman's doing it. But then on another level, I think they said because you're not happy, so you go. So if you're going, it's because you're not happy. Why are you not happy? So it wasn't any of the revelations that are in today's society that show that it can be just for your regular mental health to have one. Nothing has to be wrong, and it's not a weakness, but it was definitely looked at like you don't admit you have a family member that's going to therapy. It's interesting.
Well, the funniest part about it, too, is the therapist was like Don called the therapist after his wife went and found out everything that she said to him.
Found out how crazy... Find out if she's crazy or not.
That'd so I asked you.
It'd be awesome. Just call and be like, "Hey, tell me what she said, Doc. How do I need to handle this?" I think it'd be awesome.
No, you don't.
It's inside information.
Or you could just listen to me. Okay, what's your question for me?
Oh, okay. We'll stick in with the Madman show.
Okay.
Okay, well, obviously you've seen a lot of you've already seen a lot of things that would just inflame you. Mm-hmm. Out of all the things you've seen so far, there's been infidelity, there's been the way women are spoken to, there's been so many things. What is the thing that you think has irritated you the most out of the 3 episodes you've seen so far?
Just when they're trying to figure out what women want, and it's like a bunch of...
You mean like for a product?
Yeah.
They're trying to think...
They're trying to, how do we sell this to women? And it's just all these guys in a room. What do women want? And I just was like, you have someone outside. Like, I'm sure that revelation comes about, but, it just cracked me up. I was like,
You can watch it and just be like, oh, the good old days.
Right?
The good old days.
Well, let me quit my job and then we'll go back to the good old days.
No, because then you'd need to have that ribeye in a pan with butter and ice cream, and you would not.
I wouldn't. No.
She wouldn't. So
I would just be on Facebook.
Off.
I'd just be on social media all day, every day.
That works.
But that's been another episode of Man Frand. Bye.
Bye-bye.